You're listening to the Voice of Your Brand podcast. In today's episode, we are talking all about the ripple effects of voice, your message, and your mission. That's coming up next.
Ready to go behind the scenes and learn what it really takes to stand out as the voice of your brand? I'm Katherine Beck, voice actor and voice coach. And after 20 years of being the voice of other brands, I'm here to show you how your voice is your most powerful tool to creating the impact, influence, and income you desire. The world is your global stage, so get ready to up-level your voice and your personal brand. This is the Voice of Your Brand podcast.
Before we jump into today's episode, I want to let you know that the doors are opening very soon for Launch Your Voice. This is my signature program that's going to show you how to become known for your expertise, your skills, your talent, to be known as a visionary voice all through the power of your voice and your presence on any stage. And if you want to be the first to know when those doors open, make sure to jump on my waitlist. That's katherinebeck.com/LYV-waitlist. I will, of course, drop that in the show notes for you, so make sure to check that out. I'm really looking forward to working with some new members of Launch Your Voice to get your message out there. And if that is you, if you consider yourself your industry's best kept secret, you have a message, you have a voice, but something's holding you back from really fully utilizing your voice and feeling confident doing so, make sure you check out that waitlist. All right, let's jump into today's episode, which is about the ripple effects of voice, your message, and your mission. And this episode, I was inspired to share for many reasons, but one in particular, a very personal reason, which I wasn't really sure that I wanted to share on the podcast. And the reason for that is partly because of the ripple effect of voice. It can do so much. And sometimes I find myself holding back of using my voice. But because I know of the ripple effect of voice, when I feel that pull or that call to say something, I now know that those are the moments where I need to act on it. And if you're a listener to this podcast, then chances are you already know how powerful your voice is, both in your professional life and your personal life too, right? And when we're talking about a ripple effect, if you look up the meaning of a ripple effect, it talks about how a ripple effect occurs when there's a disturbance or a persuasive influence that creates a shift in a larger area. So when we're thinking about our voice, when we have a strong message and we vocalize it, those sound waves are hitting multiple people, right? So when we think about a podcast, it's one person having a message, sending it out through the airwaves, through this microphone out, not just to you, but to multiple people out in the world. And because a podcast can live for a very long time, if I were to say something that was highly impactful and it impacts you, the listener, it may influence you or inspire you then to use your voice to then impact others. So I feel very strongly about the ripple effects of voice, that some of us are here, in fact, to do that. But ripple effects can be scary. You know, I've battled with many years, and I didn't even realize that I was battling with it for many years until recently, that I was battling this fear of judgment of what others would think if I did something or said something that they didn't like. So many of my decisions were based on first considering what are other people going to think or say if I do or say this thing. And recently, in this past year, I realized that, and I thought how much I have been holding myself back in so many ways, and that this was the year that I wasn't going to do that anymore. So I finally gave myself the space to slow down, to get quiet, and think about what did I really want to say? What did I really want to do? Who did I really want to be? Because we change over the years, don't we? The person that you wanted to be when you were a little kid is not necessarily the same person that you want to be today, or what you see for your future self, right? Changes over time. And this occurred because last year, my son had a very difficult year at school. And it wasn't something that initially I was going to talk about on the podcast, but I felt pulled to talk about because I felt like he's always struggled with being verbal. He's very nonverbal. He was a late talker. We needed the help of a speech therapist when he was about 2.5, right before he went to preschool. He wasn't really talking much. And over the years, anytime, he's tired, he tends to go nonverbal. Last year was a difficult year for him. He went away to camp. It was about a year ago. And it was a very traumatic experience for him because he has difficulty speaking up and saying how he's feeling, or if something's upsetting him, he just shuts down and he doesn't talk. So camp did not go well for him. And as a result, it actually affected some of his friendships at school, actually his main friendships at school. And he basically lost his core group of friends. School became a very lonely place for him. He felt very isolated, and it got harder and harder to get to school. He didn't want to go to school. The teachers didn't understand him. He didn't know how to explain what was going on. The scary thing is that it was hard to find help for him because all of the child psychologists were fully booked. All of them. I was begging on the phone to get in to see someone. And that broke my heart. That there were so many kids post-COVID that were also experiencing a lot of symptoms of anxiety or depression or things just coming up to the surface. And while this was a really challenging year, and our only goal was just to literally just get him through those gates every day, to get him to school and to support him to being happy again. But in the process, we also noticed that there were things going on that needed to be diagnosed and checked out. And in January of this year, we found out that our son has high-functioning autism, which went undiagnosed for many, many years because it was mild. It was hard to detect, but it didn't come up to the surface until last year. And oftentimes what we learned is that in high school, when the challenges are far greater, or there's an experience or an event, that's when it's a little bit more noticeable. So as you can imagine, it was a shock to the system. As a parent, you want the best for your kids. You want them to thrive. And you don't want them to have any sort of limitations or disabilities or anything that's going to get in the way of them living their best life. You want them to be happy and healthy. I think as many other parents, perhaps I'm guessing, also experience when they find out that their child has this diagnosis, there is a period of almost mourning for what you had thought that their future might look like. And there's also a sense of relief of knowing now who they are, why they've been feeling the way they've been feeling, doing the things that they've been doing, not doing the things that they have not been doing. It all makes sense. And probably the greatest gift is him knowing. And while originally, when we got the diagnosis, it really wasn't something that I wanted to talk about or share. Having a son that reverts to being nonverbal, oftentimes he doesn't have a voice. And if I can support him in being a voice for him, I'll do that any day of the week. So when I think of the ripple effect of voice, I think of my son. And that if I can use my voice to be that disturbance or that influence that creates a larger impact, I will do so. And that's what I hope for you as well. If you are someone who has a strong message, use your voice. Create that ripple effect. The world needs more thought leaders. It needs innovation. It needs creativity, individuality, visionaries. When we talk about a mission or purpose, something that we are all here and meant to do, I recognized through my son's diagnosis that my true mission was to be a voice for others, to be a visionary voice, to create change and create that ripple effect through using my voice. But not only that, to helping others who have a strong message and mission, supporting them in amplifying their voice as well. So if you take anything from this episode, I want you to consider that life is so precious and it goes by so fast. And when you can slow down and listen to that voice that is in your heart, not your head, in your heart, that's calling to you, choose to listen to it. So if there is a message that you've wanted to share with the world, I want you to, and maybe do this when you're out on a walk by yourself and you've got time to think. Go on a walk, and I want you to think about, what would that message be? What is that message that you want to share with the world? And then ask yourself, what is it that you want to be known for? What is the thing that drives you, that lights you up inside, that excites you and ignites you, drives you to take action? Let yourself get quiet, get silent, and wait for that voice. And remember that your voice, your message, and your mission carries so much power. Let your voice be the ripple effect. So today I invite you to say what it is in your heart, to speak the things you wanted to say but have held back, to speak to your greater purpose, and to then start living it. Thanks so much for tuning in for this very special episode, and I'll see you back here next time on the Voice of Your Brand podcast.